too early to move the conversation to kink?
No. It's never. It's never too early.
What time is it? What time is it? You were at a kink conference this weekend.
I was.
Yes.
Yeah, I was at Winter Wickedness down in Columbus area, Ohio. We're not allowed to give away the exact location, but I've been in the U.S.
Yeah.
It's always funny crossing the border, and people are like, "What are you going to?" I'm like, "A relationship convention where we talk about wholesome activities and the Bible." Border guard, please let me into your country.
Yeah. That's like people that ask me, where is the ritual chamber, like in Toronto? And I'm like, I can't say.
It's around.
It's at an undisclosed location.
Yeah, very convenient. I assure you, you can get there.
Yeah. Which says nothing.
Yeah.
And okay, one thing you and I were talking about pre-recording, which I'd love to pick your brain about, is finding a kinky partner or finding people for kinky play. Because that is just, it's a huge thing, which I go through kind of on a constant basis.
Oh, so do I. You're fine.
And a lot of people do, and I feel like a lot of people also encounter that for the first time. Like swaths of people want to get into kinky play and just don't know how to find, a kinky partner that fits them and, that's like matched for them.
Yeah. It's funny. I find often couples are so curious about this. How are we going to do kink? How are we going to bring it in? I'm like, you've already found each other. Like, don't worry. You'll work it out. You like each other. You'll work it out. Those of us who come into the scene single or who experience a breakup and then have to go out and date, it's difficult and strange. And there are a lot of challenges to it. So first of all, like, where are the people? Yes. Right? So I was at this kink convention, which means it was a hotel takeover. We booked the entire thing, and there were probably around 750, 800 people.
Yeah, there's all the people.
There's a lot of people there, right? And they're there, and they're wandering around, and we literally, like, can use FetLife message boards to say, here are the things I'm looking for. Here are my kinks. You can check out people and say, like, oh, we probably have something in common. Let's spend some time together, strike up a conversation.
But we don't always have that resource. We're not at the hotel.
Yeah, we're not there. And kink dating mirrors in so many ways regular dating, right? Where you gotta find a way to get out and meet people.
Yeah.
That's the first challenge. Where do you find the people?
Yeah.
FetLife isn't set up to be a dating site.
Yes.
So
yeah,
like,
you honestly, you can't even search. That's the most frustrating thing for me because it's not a dating platform.
Yeah.
You cannot search for male doms in Toronto.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a plea to anybody who is watching this. If you are pervy, find a way to put that information on your dating profile.
So on your OkCupid,
Match.com, Plenty of Fish, like all these things, they are set up for dating. People are looking there to date. You can just put a little line. If you're on FL, my profile is.
That's all you need to say.
Right?
To be like, I'm into it.
Yeah. And then people can go to FetLife, look you up, check you out, see if that is there. Or
that's a great tip.
Something like I was a fan of 50 Shades of Grey. I know it's hokey.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of things that are about it, but
and when we look at the BDSM community, for a long time there was the practice of flagging. Right? So they had flags that meant different things, and that was how you would advertise. So you could spot people on the street and you'd be like, oh, your keys are hanging from a certain direction.
Yeah,
because it wasn't necessarily safe to walk up to someone or socially appropriate to walk up to someone and be like, hello, do you like fisting?
Yes, no.
Would you like to fist me? Like, that is a lot. Don't do that.
Nobody, nobody do that.
So the first challenge is the meeting people, and that is a lot of it looks like vanilla dating, and so you try guys to pepper little things in.
Yeah, so you're finding someone, say, online, and then you're like, let's grab a coffee.
Yeah,
just exactly like a regular date.
Just like a regular thing. Yeah. You can also do this in everyday conversation. You can be a little suggestive when you're chatting with someone at a bar or a concert.
Right.
You can mention that, oh, if you want to look me up on social media, here's my Twitter handle. I also have a profile on FL or FetLife. Like, you can pepper these things in depending on the chemistry you feel with a person, right?
So if you happen to meet someone in a bar, then you can be like, oh, by the way, when you're about to be like, here's my number,
right?
You can also be like, here's my FetLife profile.
And you can if you're having a conversation, what kind of movies you like, you can pepper in Secretary. There are options, right? You just casually drop this in and see if people pick them up. Because people who are looking for what you're looking for are already kind of primed to pick that stuff
They're
up,
looking for it.
right? Whereas other people will just be like, FetLife, what's that? And you're like, oh, you know so
never
much
mind.
social media. Like, who I can't even keep up. And then you can redirect the conversation. The second part that's tricky then is that people in the rush to find, or the focus of finding people with compatible kinks, sometimes we forget to find people with compatible personalities.
Yes.
Right? So we get in this weird cart before the horse situation. And negotiating a kink encounter can look really weird because you're lining up all of your like, okay, I'm into this domination, but only sensual domination, and you can't be angry about it, but like
encouragement.
I do like biting, and I don't like, and we can make laundry lists out of things.
Of the details of everything.
Yeah, and if you are new to kink, or your fetish, your erotic imagination is narrow, then you might be really, really specific. And that's like a different set of challenges, that if there's only a very small thing about what gets you off, it's going to be more difficult
to find a compatible person. Yeah.
So I encourage people to kind of like go back to that emotional thing. What emotions do you like to feel during kink?
I love that. Anytime anyone asks me that, what is the general feeling you want in the room? I love that question,
because then you can figure out what kind of actions bring that up for you, and what kind of actions bring that up for another person. And even if it hadn't been something you considered, you can still find that common ground around negotiating that kind of stuff.
Or as you were saying, did you say, how do you want to feel? How do you want to be made to feel in this scenario? How do you like to feel? Yeah, same idea.
That's very much information the bottom usually gives.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, good point.
I'm going to encourage people to also ask that of the top, or the person, the dominant, like whoever. Maybe we're two switches, but the idea of like, how does everyone want to feel?
Yes,
because it's important that my partner feels the way they want to feel, as well as me feeling how I want to feel, because then we create that energy and that spark that feeds off each other and makes it really good.
So there's still got to be compatibility that way, that you both dig the same feeling in the room, even if you haven't necessarily talked about specific acts that you want to do, and maybe there's new acts that you hadn't thought of or whatever, but that has to be a common thing. Like how do you want to feel? How do you want the atmosphere to be? Those
what helps
kinds
you
of things.
What helps you step into a powerful headspace? What helps you step into a submissive headspace? What helps you feel overwhelmed? So starting with the feeling, and then working back with like maybe
so don't start with all these details. Don't start with fisting, with anal, with
crops, with floggers. Like that will come in the discussion about like, how are we actually compatible? And I'm a huge believer that if you and someone else find each other attractive, like you can find a way to get down that will be satisfying for you. Right? Like if there's some chemistry between you and the other person, something's going to work. I used to have a
You're
friend.
going to find a thing.
Yeah. I used to have a friend that was like, listen, if your kinks are compatible, you can always just fuck. It's fine.
And it's like, oh yeah. For kinky people.
We can.
Oh yeah.
We can just have, but even just having, sex without the accoutrements, without the rope bondage, without the bondage, like any bondage of any sort, without the floggers or the whips, you can still, the words and the hands and the eye gazing and the music you pick in the room and the energy that you bring with that chemistry, you can still give it the flavors you want.
You can pepper in.
Yeah. And this is where it gets difficult though, because it is so much about chemistry and about connection, which means you have to go through the numbers and find the people, right? Like I would say, don't, probably it's a bad bet if someone is like, if someone carries a lot of shame around sex, and then they might not be able to talk with you about it, and it's going to be very difficult to have that conversation. For sure. So if you're looking for something immediate and you're not wanting to put in the work to help someone overcome that, which is fair choice, that's a thing you're going to want to know. But you would care about that in a
friendly way,
everyday
in
dating situation,
empathic way.
Yeah.
Care about other people and their struggles. Yeah.
Now I forget the other like word of caution that I was gonna make. It's gone. I'm sure it'll come back later. I'll be like, that second point.
Yeah, it'll come around. Since you brought up caution, one thing that I, as a submissively minded person, meeting a person that I don't know that is going to do all these things to me, that could potentially put me have a safety risk to
Yep.
it, right?
Yep.
So are there any tips, tricks, advice
I mean, so
around that?
yes and no. Uh, Putting yourself in a vulnerable situation with another person is inherently risky, right?
Yeah.
Like this is actually something that's part of vanilla dating too and regular dating too. This is
Yes,
why we
good
meet
point.
people in public. This is why we have a few dates
Before
we put ourselves alone with them.
Mhm.
Kink adds that risk factor, but if you actually look at how violations are happening and consent incidents are happening, so the NCSF, which is the National Coalition of Sexual Freedom, did do a study, and they found that most people are experiencing consent violations within the third or fourth encounter with someone. It's not happening in the first encounter.
Okay.
Because in the first encounter, we're very mindful about limits, and it's a new person, so we're paying particular attention. Often, as I hope you would be during your first sexual encounter with anyone, right?
Yeah.
You're paying attention to their body, how they respond to things. If things feel uncomfortable, should you stop and check in? It's when you get a little more comfortable, you can forget to check in on your person and forget to bring that vigilance and that mindfulness together, right?
That's a good point.
There are definitely still predators that are out there, and they exist everywhere. So keep that in the back of your mind, but also if you just spend your whole time being afraid, like it's impossible to navigate the world, right? And as AFAB people, like actually it's not just AFAB people, so many people know this, right? So many people exist in a world that isn't safe for them.
Mhm.
So tips and tricks, what can you do?
Yeah.
Can the person talk with you about sex? Can they be clear about their expectations, about their desires? Someone, I think it was on Twitter, was saying that anytime they see someone put lol a lot, like if in your Tinder conversation every second word is lol, it's like, why is this so funny for you? Like, why do you have to laugh at this so much? Are you feeling shame? And if the person's feeling shame, you're going to have to deal with all of their shame, which might get put on you, which might make them violent when they can't handle themselves, or it just might make them weird and clunky, and they don't want to talk to you immediately after the sex happened, right? Like in kink, often you want to check in with your partner a couple days later because you have that cycle where all the endorphins go up and then all the endorphins go down.
Yeah. Aftercare.
More than aftercare, but drop.
Yeah.
So a
yeah.
couple days later, when
Bottom
you've
drop
had,
or top drop.
yeah, top drop, bottom drop happens to everyone because we flooded our bodies with chemical soup, and then our chemical stores are depleted, and so like it's like a roller coaster. Goes up, comes down. Eventually, you mellow back out. So if someone is in a shame spiral, they might not be able to show up for you during that time because they're so busy processing their own stuff. That doesn't make them a bad person, but it makes them a difficult person to build a relationship with because they can't show up for you in the way that you need them to.
Yeah.
Right? So that, can they talk about it? Can they not talk about it?
Right. Those are warning signs. If
Those are warning
if they just
signs.
can't talk about sex right
Yeah.
off the bat, that's a huge warning
How
sign.
are you going to do this? And it might work out okay, but it's higher risk. How are they respecting your boundaries when you're actually in person together? And this is why it's important to have these conversations offline and just not online.
Yeah.
I've had dates with people where they just are constantly touching me, right? Like arm, shoulder.
Yeah, just
And
having
I'm
the
not
coffee.
reciprocal. Yeah, if I'm not interested in them, I won't reciprocate because I don't want to show them that I'm comfortable with their touch. If they get it and they stop, I understand that they've read a social cue.
Great.
Right?
Yes.
If they never get it, and I actually have to physically say, like, please stop touching me. You haven't
Do
asked to
not
touch
go
my body.
home with this person.
It tells me that they don't get boundaries, and I might, if I tell them, like I verbalize a boundary,
Yes.
and they respect it, cool. They're just clunky. They're just not great at social cues, right? If I tell them a boundary and they ignore it, or they shame me for it, or whatever,
Big
that
red
for
flag.
me is
Big
a walk
red
away.
flag.
Yeah. So for me, there's a lot of nuances, right? There's like little red flags. There's things to check in about. There's big red flags. What else is a safety tip?
Is there something we can do to kind of vet out a person, or
Yes and no.
like for me, one thing that is a very good practice that I kind of keep is I try to get the person a vouched for person.
Yeah.
I get it. I have it, a friend of a friend or a, friend of a colleague or whatever, just someone that's in the circle that can kind of vouch for the person.
Yeah, it helps.